You are listening to the enhanced version of the Jeff Rubin show, which means he has added pictures. So whenever you hear this sound, take a look at your fancy high-tech devices and check out whatever the heck he's talking about, because I'm pretty sure it's damn cool.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Jeff Rubin Show. My name is Jeff Rubin, and today my guest is Jake Goldsby, perhaps best known for his role as Toby Isaacs on Degrassi: The Next Generation. Welcome to the show, Jake.
Hello.
I want to quickly tell the story of how we came into contact with each other, this magical moment where about a week ago, I was, it's a big Tuesday night for me. I'm tweeting about the new Rock Band game announcement, Rock Band Blitz, and how excited I am because it looks like a throwback to Amplitude, the game that the creators of Rock Band worked on before there was Rock Band, before there was Guitar Hero, and I love that game. This looks like a throwback to that. I tweeted about it. It's called Rock Band Blitz. You replied to me and said something about NFL Blitz, another classic video game.
I got excited for a minute. There was some weird crossover happening and then was disappointed to learn that was not the case.
And I was the same way. But then I saw your name and I saw Jake Goldsby and I clicked on your profile and it said you were in Toronto and you were an actor. And I was like, is this the Jake Goldsby from Degrassi? And you said yes. And I got very excited.
It's amazing how Twitter can bring together the strangest things.
So for those that don't know, obviously, I'm a huge fan of Degrassi. This is actually the second Jeff Rubin show about Degrassi. A few months ago, we had two of the writers from the show on. First ever sequel episode that I've done, I think. However, usually, this is not a Degrassi podcast, so I don't know that everyone is familiar with the show. So for the benefit of those that don't know anything about it, how would you describe Degrassi?
I don't know, Canadian melodrama about everything that could possibly go wrong in high school, going wrong weekly.
So it's a Canadian melodrama, and it's a boot high school.
It's a boot high. Yeah, sorry, I misspoke there.
One of the key components of Degrassi is that there are approximately 2 billion characters, but you played Toby, one of the original core set from when they had rebooted the show.
It's true. That's back when there was only about 200 characters. It was a nice switch.
And so you were on Degrassi: The Next Generation, which started when?
2000. I'm gonna get this wrong, and people are gonna comment and be like, "You don't know the show." 2001 or 2002, I think.
And it was kind of a reboot of the original Degrassi series from the 80s.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how they phrase it, whether it was reboot or a continuation, or I guess it doesn't really matter. But yeah, there was the show here in the 80s that, was on our publicly funded CBC and come home after school and it would be on. And then I guess they wanted to try and bring it back as they do. And so they did.
Were you familiar with the original show?
I was it was kind of just before my time. I think its last couple years, I think was when I was 2. So I wasn't exactly in the target demographic as a toddler, but I was aware of it. I knew it existed. I actually grew up on the same street as Yan Moore, who was one of the original writers and producers of the original show. So I knew it existed, but I can't say I was an avid watcher. And when it started, I was like, oh my God, this is, I think this isn't a word, but the bigness of it, I guess, came as a bit of a surprise.
Was the bigness of it immediately apparent, or was there a moment when you were making Degrassi where there was something that happened and you were like, wow, this thing is getting really popular?
Sort of both, I guess. It wasn't crazy evident to me immediately that it was going to be a thing. Because to me, it was just kind of oh, it's another audition, another thing I'm doing. Which was fine. And then there was when we first started, there was a little bit of press in Canada about Return to Degrassi kind of thing, and we gave interviews on our first day, and that was more of an oddity than it was indication or anything. But I think the moment for me didn't happen until years later, not years, but a couple years later, when it started showing in the States, and I was in Buffalo at a mall, and multiple people recognized me at once, and it scared the hell out of me. But it was this kind of like, oh, people are watching this outside of Toronto, which was kind of an odd moment for a 14-year-old.
Let's go back a little bit to before you were on the show. You said that you had done several auditions. This was not your first acting role.
No, I started acting when I was 5, and so this was kind of, I'd never done anything to this extent.
What kind of other stuff did you do?
I did a lot of voice work as a kid, a lot of like kid cartoons that I don't know if they exist in America, but little shows for kids because my voice was quite high, so I could play quite young, and so I love voice work. A bunch of commercials when I started out. Nothing to the extent of Degrassi, obviously.
No other TV show?
I never did another TV show. I did little, like, not regularly. I did like here and there, like a one spot, one off things, but nothing regular.
I mean, looking at your IMDb profile, it looked like you worked. You've been in many, many things before Degrassi.
Yeah, I definitely worked. But there wasn't anything of like, I'd never gotten recognized for anything before, put it that way. There was nothing of like my IMDb profile it has things, but a lot of the credits there are like boy at court and, kid number 4, which is fine. And I don't mean to, that sounded negative, but I don't mean it to be at all. But it was nothing where people would be like, oh, you're that guy from that thing.
Did you always want to be an actor?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure how it happened because I was 5. As far as I understand the story, and if my parents listen to this, I could be proven totally wrong.
Are your parents regular listeners of the show?
I don't think so, unfortunately.
They were big fans of the Mass Effect 3 episode?
Oh, my dad loved that. He was super confused as to what a Mass Effect was. But no, as far as I understand the story, I talked a lot as a child, and people told my parents that maybe acting would be something I'd enjoy. And so I think they just kind of... I was 5, so I don't think I had like a huge amount of opinion in the matter. But it wasn't but I think if I had not enjoyed it, it definitely wouldn't have been something that I was to continue. So I don't fully know how I got into the whole thing. It just kind of happened, I guess.
How old were you when you got on Degrassi?
I think I auditioned when I was 11, and we started first season when I was 12.
What was the audition process like for that show? Because it's a very serious show. There's a lot of heavy lifting the kid actors have to do.
Yeah, it was different actually. They had us do monologues that they wrote like for each character. Like you'd come in for a character and then read a monologue they wrote for that character, and then after that narrowed it down. I guess they brought us in to read with other kids who were auditioning. Like I auditioned with Ryan, and who played JT, and Melissa, who played Ashley. And like we pretty much were auditioning together in the room. So it was a lot different than what I was used to. And I don't know if that's standard series audition procedure. I have no idea because I'd never really done it before. So maybe this is totally common and I'm just not knowing what I'm talking about. But it was definitely it was different than like here's a scene, go and read it, bye.
What was the monologue like for Toby?
It was about being short. I remember that. It was, like, I don't remember the specifics, I have to admit, but I do know it was about something about being short and being made fun. Not being made fun of, but just like something about being short is not a detriment, or no, that wasn't it. So being short, that's what I know.
Did you originally go in for Toby?
I did. I read for JT as well, but I went in for Toby first, and then was told to come back and read for the role of JT afterwards. With the JT monologue, which I don't remember at all. And then when we were doing scenes with, like the audition with other people, I believe I read for both as well, but I'm not sure.
And what was it like when you actually got the show?
Honestly, it was just kind of like I said, like I wasn't aware of what it was really, or that it would become a thing. I don't think anybody was aware it would become what it has. But
were there any talks when you were auditioning for the show that there was going to be some very serious subject matter dealt with, and this was going to be, very grown-up material?
I don't think so. I think it was just kind of a given. Like it was because even though I wasn't well versed in Degrassi, I think I knew enough about it to know that it was high school or whatever melodrama kind of thing, and that inherently in these kind of shows, whether it's this or Now 2.0 or what have you, that's just kind of how it is. So I think it was there. I don't think there was ever a speech given of like, this is going to be a show about kids getting pregnant. Be careful.
And how old were you when you graduated from Degrassi and left the show?
I left when I went to university-ish. So I think I was 19 when I left.
So you were on this show from 11 to 19.
Yeah, like 12 to 19, I guess. Yeah. It was 7 years. So I can't remember exactly when ages, but yes, pretty much.
What is it like growing up being a child actor on this show? Like, what was your day-to-day life like? Did you go to regular school?
Yeah, I went to regular school. It's interesting because like in Toronto, I feel like it's less of a thing. Like I definitely still get recognized occasionally now, but then I would get recognized, but I don't know if it's just the Toronto mentality because it's a Toronto show, but it was never anything that really impeded. Not that I am well known enough for it to ever be this way, but it was never. It was just kind of like every now and then I'd get someone be like, "Hey, you're that guy."
But how much school did you miss to be on Degrassi?
Not a huge amount. They shoot mostly in the summer. So they shoot like May to October-ish, at least when I was on. I don't know what their schedule is now. So it wasn't a huge amount. And the acting union here has a law that kids under, I think 16, maybe it's 18. I don't remember. But kids have to do 2 hours of schoolwork on set a day by law if they're missing school.
Oh my God, that sounds like the worst. Like when you're 13 and you're on set and you're acting, are you like, I don't want to do math, I'm on Degrassi?
It was more, I don't want to do math because I don't understand math. But it was also, it was totally that like, you go down to set and you're like having fun and hanging out with the crew and your friends and joking around and doing your scene and doing your work. And there's like free food and it's great. And then you go back upstairs. It's like, okay, now I have to go and, read Catcher in the Rye for an hour. So it was there's definitely a disconnect there of like, but in a way it was kind of nice because it does not at the time, obviously, but in retrospect, it is kind of like a little bit of injecting reality into a very odd environment.
What's it like when you go back to school? Your classmates must have seen you on the show. Is this something that's talked about, or is it just like a fact of life? And it's like, oh yeah, Jake's on Degrassi.
Yeah, it was more the fact of life. I think at first I remember it's like I started doing the show in junior high and went to high and switched schools in high school. After a year or so of the show already being on, and in elementary school, like when it first started, there was definitely a moment like nothing big or crazy. But definitely some sort of like, this is a little different. But eventually, yeah, it just kind of became fact to life. It was just like, that's the guy who does this.
Do you think it made you cool that you were on a TV show? Did people like respect that?
I don't know. I know that I definitely had some trepidation about nothing against the show at all. But like, I was always like, man, being recognized would be way more fun if I was like on Lost or something. But that sounds worse than it is, but it was, I don't know if it made me cool. I think it would take a lot to make me cool, but it was definitely, it was just a thing that people knew, which I always found kind of odd, that there was just like, I don't know who you are, but you know a thing about me, which was kind of, I don't know if it necessarily makes me cool, but it made me known, I guess.
Now, Toby, I think it's fair to say, was kind of the nerd in his generation of Degrassi.
Only kind of?
I mean, I think it's not like Saved, for those that haven't seen the show, it's not like Saved by the Bell. You're not like Screech. Toby's like a human person.
Oh, I wish I was Dustin Diamond.
I don't know if that's true.
No, that's absolutely not.
But you were, and it seems like maybe you're kind of like Toby. I mean, right off the bat, you responded to my tweet about the Rock Band video game spinoff by invoking another video game.
It's true. That is kind of a giveaway, isn't it?
Do you think that you were like Toby before you were on Degrassi, or did playing Toby, did that just seep into your life?
I hope it's the former. I don't know. I think I am a nerd. I'm not gonna. I think there's definite similarities in everyone.
This is a safe place. You can talk about it here.
Yes, the internet is a very safe place. But yeah, I think it's only natural for most roles, except like crazy like Christian Bale method actor roles, that you are pretty much, there's a large part of who you are in what you're playing, especially in a show that's about people your age. It's about kids in high school. So I was never able, and still am barely able, to talk to women. I think that I play video games, I read comics, I do all that stuff that the TV nerd would do, I suppose. So I guess there is. I don't think a lot of it seeped into me through playing Toby, but I think that there was a lot of me. I don't think they didn't hire me as the nerd for no reason.
I mean, I'm relating to what a lot of you're saying. Like, if I took a what Degrassi character are you quiz online, which I'm sure I could, and it didn't tell me I was Toby, I'd like email the guys and be like, hey, your quiz is broken. It's not functioning properly. But surely being on this hit TV show, that must have helped you talk to girls when you're a teenager, right?
I've always was and always will be very reluctant to, use it as an in. I don't know why fully, but maybe it's because I played the nerd. I don't know. But I think it's, to me, it was never, even when it became sort of big, to me, it was never like a big thing. Like, I always just kind of saw it as the thing I do. Like my dad always used to say something like, this is going to be a very Canadian sentence, but
I cannot wait.
But like in high school, I know a lot of kids who played very, very serious hockey, and that was just, and like they were extremely good, but that was just kind of what they did. And so my dad was raised like, some kids play hockey. This is what you do. And so to me, it was never something I would like. It's never something I'd lead with, like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm on TV." That was never something that occurred to me.
But people must have recognized you because this is a show you're also making for your peers, approximately.
Yeah. No, there's definite recognition. Like
your peers and me, and other 13-year-olds and me in college.
Well, I think that's a lot more. I don't think that's just you. I think that's
no. It's true. There are other adult Degrassi fans. Yeah. I watch it with some of them.
That would be an interesting party, but there was definite recognition, but I don't know. I being perfectly honest, if this is the safe place of the internet, like I've never been entirely comfortable with the recognition aspect of it. Like I don't dislike it, but it was never something where I was like, oh, okay. Like it was never something where I was like, I can't wait. I hope I'm out right now. I hope somebody recognizes me.
I'm surprised to hear you say that, just because acting is somewhat inherently nerdy. Like you need a degree of confidence to do it. On Degrassi, you were doing some pretty embarrassing things that, like, you need to be a sort of a kid with confidence, I imagine, to do in front of a whole crew and knowing that all your friends would eventually see it. Right away, jumping to the top of my mind is one of those early episodes where you and JT get busted looking at internet porn by your parents.
Weirdly enough, that is like the number one thing that, like, if people talk about it, a specific episode, like that's where they go.
I'm embarrassed that I did the episode everyone else jumped to. But you find that's the one people bring up with you the most?
I think so. It's either that or Do You Know Drake? But
Do you know Drake?
Well, yeah, like he was on the show.
Yeah, he was. How clear was it how talented he was on the show?
I had no idea he was this good.
I gotta say, from my outside perspective, it's like, yeah, most of the kids on Degrassi have a musical side project. Like, when I first, like, heard that he was a rapper, but then you started seeing it bubble up, and, like, he was on Lil Wayne mixtape, and you were like, oh, wow, this is real.
It got crazy quick.
But let's get back to you masturbating with JT. Yes. I guess you guys weren't masturbating. You're just looking at internet porn.
Yeah, maybe you saw the DVD.
Yeah, it's weird I put that into it. So, you guys were busting internet porn. That's the episode that most people bring up to you. Why do you think that is?
Because porn is funny.
But that's like the not even in the top 50 most go there moments for Degrassi.
Not at all. Like if you want, like, it's not even close. But I don't know. Maybe it's just my friends because my friends like making fun of me for being on TV and getting busted.
Yeah, surely. Like I imagine. Just the nature, I don't know how it works in Canada, but here, the nature of just like shitty 13-year-olds is going to be like, hey man, you got caught looking at internet porn again this week? Like as soon as that...
Yeah, there are just as many shitty 13-year-olds in Canada as there are.
I assume, did you get like... and now I'm not just talking about that specific episode, but that one too. Did like you find at school that people would like bring that up and like just try to use it against you probably because they're jealous?
A little, like, I think that's just kind of, like, 13-year-olds are the worst people on the planet, I think.
Unless they're listening to this show, in which case, you guys are all right.
Yes, no, Jeff Rubin's 13-year-old fans are the great.
Way to beat the filter on iTunes that your parents set up to not let you download explicit podcasts. You must be cool.
But yeah, it's 13-year-olds, like, I don't think it matters what you do. I think if you do anything that's, whether it's a TV show or anything that's in the public eye in any form, 13-year-old kids are going to find a way to make it shitty for you. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't, but that's not to say I had I've not had a torturous life because of it. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's just, I think it's one of those things where it is kind of fun. I would probably, if I knew a kid on a show who got busted looking at porn when he was 13, I'm sure I would have said something too. Like, it's just a natural thing. It's an easy thing to make fun of, kind of.
A recurring theme on this show, this podcast I'm talking about, is I'm always fascinated by, like, the evolving role of nerds in culture. And I think even within the world of Degrassi, you can see that, where Toby was the nerd when he was on Degrassi. Like, he was generally defined by his like of computers, by his love of computers. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah.
But now, if you watch Degrassi, which I still do, there's tons of nerds. There's, like, a lot of different varieties of nerds. I feel like you couldn't pigeonhole someone as being, like, that one's the dorky one.
It's become kind of cool to be in, like, I missed that boat on the show. Like, I was not in the period of time where it was cool to be a nerd. You know, I was like I think I was right on the cusp of that when I was on Degrassi.
Yeah, so, Toby would have a lot more options if he were on the show today.
Yeah, I would be fucking awesome if I was on the show today. But instead it was like, yeah, computers are the thing.
But Degrassi was always pretty good about that technology. Like, that first episode's all about online predators, and, like, the computer lab was always kind of a central location. For sure. But I mean, like, from the strictly Toby perspective, like, there was not, like, the fact I wore glasses on the show when at that time was not a thing of, like, that's awesome. Now it's like, if you wear glasses, you're probably cooler than I am. So it's true. It has the idea of the nerd has changed greatly in the last. Just since Degrassi: The Next Generation's been back on.
Yeah, not even, like, since I left. Like, it was like, I left and it was like, okay, now we can make nerds cool because this guy's not on the show anymore.
Well, I don't think that's it.
No, I don't either. But
what else was going on from the perspective of Toby and Degrassi?
Not a whole lot.
Yeah, it seems like Toby never had a serious relationship except for Kendra, who fell into the Degrassi black hole.
Not really. Yeah, you're right. Like, I saw someone got shot.
I mean, you have some pretty big scenes. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I made a supercut of all of the Degrassi freeze frames from season 1 to 4.
That is absolutely terrifying.
And you're in quite a bit of them. You have a lot of big scenes. I was wondering if actually, I could ask you about some of these, and you could tell me about that at an episode.
You can try. I'm not gonna lie. There's a good chance I won't. Like, I feel like you know these far better than I do.
The reason I wanted to bring it up is because the writers, when I interviewed them, mentioned that getting that freeze frame moment was kind of a big deal for the actors. Is that true?
A little bit at first, yeah. Like, there's definitely in read-throughs, like, we'd have our scripts flipped over at first, and you'd see the last page and be like, who's getting the freeze frame?
For those that don't know, every episode of Degrassi used to, no longer in the past year or two, I'm not sure exactly when, ended on a usually very dramatic freeze frame with one of the actors.
Super fun for a 13-year-old, by the way, to have your face superimposed on a television for a good 5 seconds.
Well, 13's when you want that happening.
Yes.
So, right away, season 1, your first freeze frame, you and Terry are comforting your stepsister, Ashley, after she took ecstasy.
Okay.
You remember that episode?
I do, actually, yeah.
What was going on with that episode? Because that's kind of the first time a lot of the characters, it seems like, get together, and there's like some crossover between the two generations.
Well, that's one of those episodes where I look back on now, and because like I was 13 or 12 when we did that, like I did not know what the deal was with ecstasy, at all. And like it's one of those things I look back on now. It's like I don't remember what my like how we all thought about it, but like I'm sure we were incorrect. So it's. Yeah, that was. I think that was the last episode of the first season, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure. I'm not actually positive.
I think that's why there was like, let's get everyone in a house together. I just remember the only thing I remember really strong from that is me and Ryan having to pretend like we were on ecstasy with the two of us not really knowing what we're doing.
Did you research that at all?
No, probably should have. I don't. I'm sure someone told us like what. I don't think they would have just let 13-year-olds be like, "What do you think ecstasy is?" Action. But it's one of those things where looking back now, I'm like, I'm sure that was wholeheartedly incorrect on our part.
When you have a serious episode coming up, does someone sit you down and they're like, "Listen, what do you know about diet pills?"
It never happened for me. I think
diet pills is probably the greatest vice as I recall that Toby faced. Like you have some serious plot lines, but just like personal demons.
Yes. Again, super fun for someone in high school.
But what were you gonna say? I cut you off. Not for you.
I don't. You were asking about like meetings about sitting down and being like, "This is a thing." I never had one, but I know that for a couple like the really serious. I can't think of specific examples, but I know they existed.
Abortion, school shooting,
and like I know when they killed JT, I know that they were like I know Ryan went in and they were like, so we're doing this and that. Like I think for certain episodes it was definitely brought up, but I never really had I never had one of those meetings of, so what do you know about problem X?
You actually get the freeze frame in the school shooting episode. It's you and Emma.
That's true.
What was it like shooting the school shooting episode?
Bizarre. Because like I was amazed at how much. I don't know if this is just because it was like a show with a bunch of teenagers on it, or if this always happens. But the what's the word? The amount of safety and checks of having guns on set. Really amazing. Like before each take there was like a gun wrangler like you'd have for a dog. And like before each take, they'd be like, okay, guns on set. It's not loaded. And like just making sure everyone knew where it was, when it was going off, et cetera, et cetera. And it like, I started wondering like how in God's name do you do like a show like Justified where someone's getting shot in every scene? Like, do they do that for every take? Like their days must take forever because of that. And so I remember it was kind of a bizarre thing to be working with what felt like a more adult prop in a way.
Toby has a pretty important role to play in the school shooting, which is kind of interesting. He's the character who was like friends with Rick and he feels guilt because of that.
Yeah.
Was that a big arc for you?
I guess so. Yeah, it lasted more than a day. So I think any arc in Degrassi that lasts more than an episode is something of an arc. So it was interesting because like I actually didn't know that's where it was going, or if I did, I forgot. Because like I remember it was just kind of like, oh, I'm friends with this guy now, and then yeah, it was. I was surprised. I think that that's where it was going.
You already mentioned this, but also another one of those moments where Degrassi really elevated its game was when they killed JT, and you get the freeze frame in that episode too.
Man, I had more freeze frames than I thought.
Well, these are big episodes.
I suppose that's true.
There is actually, I saw it online or on a DVD or something. There's like a recording of the table read where you guys find out that JT died.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I actually remember that quite well. That was, I don't know. Ryan had told me, I think the day before, that what was happening, but I think I was the only one who knew. And I remember the only thing I remember like vividly from that was just like when we finished, there's like a good minute of silence, at that table, which at that table was silence is very rare. It was just kind of this like, it was a lot more. And I think like I was like 16, so I was like, this is emotions, but like in retrospect, I think it was like a very actual like real moment that I don't know if maybe like nowadays every episode has something totally insane happening, so maybe this is commonplace, but I remember for me it was a very real moment of like genuine shock from everyone else at the table of like what was happening.
And now that moment is preserved forever as a DVD extra.
Wonderful. I'm glad.
None of my big moments when I was a teen are like on YouTube in that way.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's a terrible thing. But yeah, I'm glad that lots of people can see us all in a very uncomfortable situation.
When we briefly spoke about this over Twitter, and I was like, are you Jake Goldsby from Degrassi? And you said, yes, in a more awkward and prepubescent time. Is that how you feel about it? Do you feel awkward about those years?
Well, does anyone not feel awkward about being 13?
That's a great point. But is that how you look back on your Degrassi experience? Is it like just closely tied to that?
I think it's definitely related. I mean, it's literally going through puberty with people watching, which is kind of the worst thing possible. I don't know. I don't look back at it as an awkward thing, but it was definitely, it's an awkward time. Like it's being a teenager. So in a way, yeah, I guess that was like, I think there's a very sharp divide between who I am now and who I was then. So it is very much like, even though a lot of the years I was on it, I was not prepubescent. I do look at it as a very different person than I am now. So yeah, I guess it is a roundabout way of saying yes.
Before you just said that Ryan had told you right before his character was going to be killed, and that he had like kind of let you in on that secret, which is great because in my imagination, you guys really were friends. Was everyone really friends like on set?
Actually, yeah. It's not. I can't speak to everyone because I don't know. But I know for me, I never had problems with people. I always found it very fortunate when you get 15, 16 teenagers in a room. The fact they don't want to immediately kill each other is kind of amazing. So I thought it was, yeah, like I still have, I'm not super close with everyone now, but I have no problems with anyone. If I see them, we'll hug and we'll talk. Like, it was for a group of teenagers, it was a very friendly set, which was always, at least for me, in my experience, it was, which I always counted as, lucky in a way, because it could have been a horrible experience if people weren't really getting along.
I have a few friends like that I knew back then from middle school and from summer camp that I still see. Do you still see any of these guys?
Yeah, a couple of them. Me and Jake Epstein are still really close.
Jake Epstein was Craig.
Yes, he and I are still good friends. Weirdly, I'm actually friends with the new kids a lot of them, even though I don't really watch their show. But I became close with a lot of the kids on the show now. I still talk I talk to Lauren. I see Lauren around occasionally. Played Paige. Who else? Ryan and I don't talk a lot, but we're still friends. I run into Cassie every now and then. Like it's Toronto, right? So you kind of just run into people everywhere you go. It's a big city, but it's not a big city.
How did you meet like the people that are on the show now that weren't there when you were there? Is there like a fraternity house that you come back to?
Thank God, no. No, I one of my very best friends was on it. I think her Paula, who played, I can't remember her character name.
Which one is she? I'm not as good with the new cast, but if you describe the character, we may be able to put together.
She dated Spinner for a while. That's all I know.
Oh, it's killing me. I should know this. Let's keep talking. It'll come to me.
Anyways, she's one of my very best friends, and she was on it a little bit after, so I'd go and hang. And I think I did a day on an episode. I think I did like one scene in an episode after I left the next year.
I believe I know which scene you are referring to, where you come back and are now the commissioner of Bot Wars.
Yes.
Which is like a BattleBots league.
Before Real Steel, so deal with it, Hugh Jackman.
One of my favorite things about Degrassi is just like how active the student body is and the insane amount of activities that take place there.
Well, that's
so much so, and the one that I really say for that is that they have a Bot Wars team.
That's what I've always kind of found amazing about it. Like, I have never heard of a high school that has both a football team and a BattleBot team. Like, I feel like you have one or the other, and you don't get both, let alone every other sport and club. Like this school, and like the thing, like this is gonna. I don't mean to sound like judgmental or stereotypical, but a school that has all of those sports programs and has the ability to fund those sports programs probably doesn't have a lot of the social problems that Degrassi has.
That's funny. Every school has social problems.
That's like obviously people get pregnant at every school. There's problems everywhere. Don't get me wrong, but it's just I've always found that amazing that it was the school that both had, like every problem possible, but also every luxury possible.
Jane, that's who your friend played.
Yes.
I had to look it up online. I cheated a little.
Look that up, or did that come to you?
Nah, I cheated. I looked it up.
Oh, okay.
Jane, though. How could we forget Jane? What was it like coming back? Was it like, going back to your old high school?
It was odd because I didn't know anyone I was in the scene with.
Who were you in that scene with? I feel like that's like Connor and Claire and Casey.
I don't know their character names, I have to admit.
Gotcha.
It was...
I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Yes, it very well might be. But like I think I'd met them before, but it wasn't... It was very much... It was odd going... Because I worked for 7 years on that show with people I knew. And it was more... Like, seeing the crew was much more of a reunion feeling to me than it was with the cast, because I didn't know them. It was interesting coming back after not being there for so long.
What was different?
It just seemed very... it was... Like, it wasn't our set anymore. Like, the torch had very much been passed. So it was kind of like doing a guest spot on a different show that I just happened to know the crew on. It was and I knew like how to get there. But it was, it's the new, they seem to kind of reboot it every couple of years now. And so it was kind of like going to a new show.
It's amazing how much what you're saying is analogous to going back to your old high school. You don't know any of the students, but you know the teachers, and it's like very clear that things have moved on without you.
Yeah, it's very true. And it didn't really bother me. It was just, but it was like a kind of odd moment of, oh, okay, this is what it is now. And then then that thought passed, and I saw the free food and went back to being like, oh, okay, this is fun again.
It sounds like, I'm just trying to imagine the experience of being on Degrassi. I'm always trying to imagine the experience of being on Degrassi. It just seems like almost like a summer camp or another school where you're just going and, there's these friends you see every summer or whatever it is.
Yeah, I called it TV camp in the early goings.
It must be awkward when all of a sudden the camp counselors, who are in this case the writers, are like, by the way, you two got to start making out every now and then.
I think, it's Degrassi, so but eventually, as you said, I didn't really deal with that. But
Here and there, though.
here and there. But yeah, eventually it just became like, okay, who's making out today? Like it's Degrassi, someone's making out every week.
Yeah, that's true. So eventually it's just not a big deal.
Yeah, like eventually it was, and like even at first it wasn't like, because like even though we were kids, it's still our job. Like we were still actors, so it's kind of like, okay, well, this is in the script today, so this is what we're doing today. How are you? But like there were definitely worries. I remember there were days of like, I have a kissing scene coming up. I gotta chew some gum. Like, I don't want to be that guy with the horrible breath kissing people on screen.
I imagine you got a lot of 15, 16-year-olds getting comfortable with making out. A lot of actual relationships going to blossom out of that.
I don't know. Were there?
The internet seems to think there were.
Yeah, the internet once said that I was dating Melissa, who played my sister, which was very much not true. Height difference, like, alone, that wouldn't make sense. Yeah, I know with the new kids, there's been a few. That's for sure. I don't know if we had any like real. If we did, I didn't know about it.
You can't recall any of your cast members ever dating?
Because it's my memory. I admittedly have not thought about like a lot of being on the show in a long time. So my only worry is if like I have ideas. My worry is if they're not true, and I'm just saying things on the internet that aren't true, then I'm going to look like a dick.
That's fair. But I can remember, like, people that I haven't seen in 10 years who I knew when I was 15. And I can remember certain pairs of them hooking up here and there, like you just remember your classmates. And
I have like vague ideas. I'm just not sure how accurate they are.
Yeah, I guess that's true in my case too. Like thinking back to the people I knew in that era, like I have vague ideas, but I guess I wouldn't want to go on the record about any of them.
I'm not trying to like be like, I don't want to talk about that, because no, it totally happened. Like I know it happened. I just can't remember who. Or I like I said, I have an idea, but I'm not sure if it's true or not.
Right. But I can imagine, like, I can remember from that era, like, one or two serious couples. And there was just never a serious couple. Not even asking you to name anyone, but you can't remember anyone, like, ever being serious enough that you still remember it now?
No. Like, are there? Like, are there ones that I don't know about or I'm not thinking of? Like,
I don't know either. I got to tell you, my Degrassi fandom draws the line at like doing serious research into who is dating who.
Tiger Beat magazine, and I don't know if we're actually covered in Tiger Beat magazine, but that seems shocking to me.
Well, like, it's definitely like on the wiki looking around, like it mentions like a few actors with this person, but one thing I've learned about Degrassi wikis are that they're updated by like, people who aren't as old as people that update other wikis, and the information can often be more poorly written and possibly less citation needed. All I'm saying is citation needed.
That's what I mean. Like, I'm sure I could wiki people and like see something, but like I don't have enough recollection to know if it's accurate or not. Like, Wikipedia could very much be a better source for this than I am, or it could be even worse. So I'm not sure, to be honest.
I'm pulling up Toby Isaacs. Have you ever looked up your page on the Degrassi wiki?
No, I've looked at my page on Wikipedia because it makes me laugh, because the only thing on there is it says I am Jewish.
And it's like, duh.
And well, yeah. It's so that it always makes me laugh, and that's actually a big hit for my friends. Just the fact that my Wikipedia page strictly just says the most defining characteristic about myself.
Let me read some trivia off the Toby Isaacs wiki page, and maybe you can knock this down right now.
Please do.
Toby's grandparents died in the Holocaust.
I don't know if that was a line or if people are just making that assumption because I'm Jewish.
No, I think that's Toby, not like Jake's.
No, I know, but like Toby was Jewish too.
Did Toby's parents? That did not happen in an episode?
I don't know. It may have. It was never. Like, maybe if it was brought up, it was like a line. But like, I know we never met my grandparents, so I guess it's possible.
What about? That's funny. You don't even. What about Toby is left-handed? Is that true?
I am, so I guess so.
Okay, that wasn't like you're right-handed, and that was Toby as a choice.
No, I guess they must have. That must be like someone saw me writing in the show and was like, "Oh, sweet, I'm Wikipediaing the fact that he's left-handed."
All right, how about this one? Toby is one of blank characters that have dealt with an eating disorder or negative body image. What do you think that blank is? How many characters have dealt with an eating disorder?
34.
7. The other 6 are Kathleen, Terry, Manny, Emma, Katie, and Jenna.
I don't know who Katie and Jenna are, but fair enough.
I think I know I know who they are. So you don't watch the show anymore?
No, I don't. Not for any reason other than that I am super not in the target demographic.
Yeah, most people who can legally drink don't watch Degrassi. I recognize that I am one of the exceptions.
Well, like, to be fair though, like with a lot of people I know, like the old show is like totally a thing. Like before, like the Joey Jeremiah show is absolutely a thing in my peer group here.
But you didn't know when you were a kid.
No, I missed that by a year or two.
So also in your Twitter profile, it says that you are an ex-actor.
A one-time
actor.
Yeah, well, I am not currently acting, and I'm doing other things, so I figure I don't want to false advertise myself up there.
So why are you not acting anymore?
I took a break when I went to school, because I went to school in Montreal for 4 years. And if you don't speak French, it's pretty hard to find acting work in Montreal because everything that's English that shoots there casts in Toronto. And also I kind of wanted to just, go to university and be not on television. And so I just kind of stopped doing it for a while. And it's not so much something that I still like doing it. I'm just not sure how much of I'm not sure I see myself as growing up and being an actor.
So what are you working on now?
Right now I'm working on, I do some writing for Toronto's AV Club.
Which is awesome. I read the AV Club all the time. I mentioned
as do I.
I think I name check it all the time on this podcast. Read it all the time.
I name check it in my daily life a lot.
Yeah. A lot of my friends and I are just like, we assume that we have each read all the AV Club articles of the day.
Us as well.
Mm-hmm. So what are you writing for them? About what?
I write a monthly sports column for the Toronto local.
Now hold on. How come you're trying to get sports in the AV Club?
That's because I needed an angle to start writing for the AV Club. I interned for them in September for the Toronto one, and when it was done, I was like, well, I like doing this, but I need something I can do. So I was talking with the editor of Toronto, named John Semley, who's become a friend of mine. He was like, well, what do you know? And with AV Club, if you say, oh, I know music and film, it's kind of everyone at the AV Club knows music and film. So I thought maybe there's not a lot of in the AV, that ilk. There's not a lot of sports writing. So I thought maybe I could do that. And in Toronto, it kind of sucks to be a sports fan because all our teams are terrible. So I thought I could just be cynical and make fun of people.
Do you write about sports from an AV Club-ish perspective? I
try to.
So what does that mean?
Being sarcastic and making fun of things. Being cynical, I guess, is really the right. From my perspective, it's about just being cynical, which is fun because I don't have to. It's nice to not write in a strict news sense for sports, which there isn't a lot of.
Are you able to tie it into a larger pop culture thing?
I try sometimes. It's more if it is, it's more with references rather than a set thing. Although I'm writing a column now. There's when the Blue Jays won the World Series in the early -- they released these VHS tapes chronicling it, and I watched them so much as a child that I just found them on DVD. And so it's amazing to just look at the fact that the early 90s existed is kind of amazing to me. Just looking at people.
That's interesting. What's cool about those tapes that aren't the actual baseball?
The amount of gray sweatshirts in the crowd. I don't know if that was light gray Blue Jays sweatshirts were apparently the fashion choice of Toronto in 1992.
Is gray one of the Blue Jays colors? I assume
No.
Blue is.
Absolutely not. It's those gray sweatpant color sweaters that are just horrible. That I feel like you could go to Urban Outfitters and buy them for $32, but it's this weird, very like tucked in sweatshirts. It's just something I've noticed while watching The Crown. There's a lot of them.
That sounds really fun. So is that what you want to do now, right?
I guess so. I don't
want to be your mom and be like, is that what you're doing now? But is that what you're interested in?
It is what I'm doing now, and it is what I'm interested in. I intern as well at a sports network here. I do some writing for them. I just like any sort of writing where I can just kind of make fun of things and just kind of rather than I like opinion writing because I have a lot of them, and it's nice to be able to just kind of write something that comes to mind. Like I feel like writing about the Blue Jays today, so I'm going to. So like honestly, I don't like one of the reasons I kind of drifted away from acting, to be fully honest, was I took this acting class when I was about 16. And there were these people in the class, adults in the class, who were like literally some of the best actors I've ever seen. But they hadn't yet made it. And they were like 45, 50, like still trying to make it, and they cared so much, and they're so good at it. And I just remember thinking, like, I don't know if I could like be 45 and still trying to make it. I don't know if I have that drive with acting, but with like writing about nonsensical things, that's something I may have a drive for. So who knows? Like, again, I don't know what's happening tomorrow, but it's a start, I guess. I don't know.
I think that's smart of you to recognize that you need that drive in whatever it is you want to do. If you like don't want to do it, if you can't imagine doing it when you're 45 and like still working at it, then I think you got to recognize, then I think it makes sense to be like, well, then what is it? What would make me do that?
Yeah. I mean, like I drift back and forth between lots of things. Like before I started working for AV last summer, I went through this whole thing of, because when I was a kid, I had training in like improv comedy. I was like, maybe I should try and do that for a career because that's lucrative. And so I started going back into that, and then that just didn't happen, even though I still kind of would like to. But it was just, I'm kind of all over the place when it comes to figuring out what I'm doing.
How old are you now?
I'm 23, 24 almost.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's like cool. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing. It's totally cool.
Yeah, like it is very much the like year after university. Like
yeah. I think it's great that you're trying out like all this different stuff. Where can people check this? Where can people read your writing?
You can read it on avclub.com/Toronto. Once a month, I write a column called The Fan Abides. You get if you go to a couple of the blogs on thescore.com, where I intern, there's occasionally a blog post. You can tell because it's the one that's not done by the professionals. Or you can read my nonsensical ramblings about things on Twitter, which I was always super against, and then started using it, and now I'm somewhat addicted to it.
And what is your name on Twitter?
My Twitter, it's just Jake Goldsby. It's super original. It's the first letter of my first name and then my last name.
And one last question for you. What do you look like now?
I look like an older Jew. I don't know. I don't wear glasses. I never did. I have scruffy facial hair. I don't know. I don't know how to describe myself.
Well, do you have a picture? If you send me a picture, I can slip it in the enhanced version if you wouldn't mind. I don't want to be creepy or anything. You have the video on Skype? You want to print screen it? Yeah, let's do it. Hold on.
Yeah, there you are. Oh, you got a microphone and everything.
Yeah, it's a pretty professional setup I got going here.
I'm impressed.
Well, Jake, thanks so much for being on the show. Thanks getting on video Skype with me and everything. This was so much fun.
Yeah, this is great.
All right, that will almost probably be my last Degrassi episode for at least maybe a little while. Let's do some Jeff Rubin, fact check. Nothing too bad here. Everything was mostly right. I just want to confirm some things that were speculated on. First of all, Degrassi, the next generation, or as I like to call it, next gen, did start in 2001. One thing that I was wrong about is that the episode where Toby and Terry are comforting Ashley after she took the ecstasy, not actually Jake's first freeze frame. I am sorry for misreporting that. His first freeze frame is in an episode where Mr. Simpson, who is not yet Principal Simpson, tells Toby how proud he is of him because of the way he handled his parents getting together, and they usually fight, and it was Parents' Day. That was Jake's first freeze frame, and I am sorry that I've misled you. You know that Degrassi Wiki does say that Toby's grandparents died in the Holocaust, but I can't find it mentioned in any of the episode descriptions. And after I googled Degrassi Toby Holocaust, I realized I may just be going a little too deep on this one. So I'm actually not sure if that was in an episode or not. If anyone can confirm, please let me know. And when Toby returned to host Bot Wars, the people he was dealing with were in fact Casey, Claire, and Connor, but also, and I left this one out, Allie. That's right, Allie in Bot Wars. I know, it happened. Thank you guys so much for listening to the show. If you want to do the intro where you explain what the enhanced episode is, send it over, record it, leave out the sound. I'll take care of the picture. We'll include a picture if you have a specific thing you'd like me to use. Send it to Jeff Rubin at jeffrubinshow.com. And thank you, Sonny, for this week's lovely intro. You can also follow me on Twitter, especially if you're a former Degrassi cast member who want to respond to random things I say about video games on random nights. At Twitter, that's Jeff Rubin Show. On Tumblr, at jeffrubin.com. On my Facebook fan page, and at youtube.com/Jeff Rubin. My guest next week will be the Chief Creative Officer, I believe that I'm getting the job title correct, of the Alamo Drafthouse, which is easily the best movie theater in the country, and you're going to find out why. That is next week on Tuesday. I'll see you there. Bye.